Today we have with us Nick Heath. Nick Heath is in Florida, United States of America, and he is a scientist, a researcher, and a writer living with a type 1 diabetes. Though his formal education is in atmospheric science, he has dedicated the last 7+ years of his free time to studying, teaching, and sharing the principles of breathing and mindfulness. A certified oxygen advantage coach and a level 1 pranayama teacher and a member of the Global Wellness Breed Initiative.
Awesome.
So, my first question is your background and your journey and what has inspired you to become a breathwork specialist.
Sure. So my background is mixed, really varied, but I began with breathing through diabetes actually. So I'm a type 1 diabetic. I got diabetes when I was 11, and around age 30, or actually around age 29, I discovered Wim Hof and got really into the Wim Hof breathing and was doing it every day. But then about a year later, when I was 30, I discovered the oxygen advantage and started
Mm.
changing some simple things with how I breathe. Started doing nasal breathing, slow breathing, taping my mouth at night, a lot of the silly stuff, right? I got really into it, but I started to notice like a couple months. Well, first I noticed like a huge increase in my energy. I thought this is crazy. All I've done is change my breathing. But a few months later, I noticed my blood sugars were way better. And as someone with living with type 1 diabetes, like you're really attuned to changes in your blood sugars, how your diet affects it. There's a lot of things that are outside of your control. So you're also attuned to
Yeah.
that, right? Like, oh, no matter what, if I do the exact same thing, things still change. But
Mm.
I was like, this is not coincidence. Like, my blood sugars are much better. I feel much better all through just like spending a few minutes breathing slowly through my nose, taping my mouth. I was doing a little bit of breath holds back then. I don't do those anymore, but it was kind of a combination of all these different breathing techniques, and I needed to understand why. So I'm a scientist by training. So I started reading papers. I'm not a pulmonologist. I'm not a respiratory physiologist. I'm an atmospheric scientist, but I read a lot of papers. So I decided I'm going to start just reading everything I can to understand what might be happening. And I started discovering a bunch of science supporting everything I was experiencing, and a lot more things I'd never experienced. You see all these wonderful things that happen. And so I decided to go train with Patrick McEwen to become an oxygen advantage instructor. And at the time, it really wasn't to teach, it was more just for self knowledge. Like I just wanted to know everything I possibly could about breathing. But, I started realizing, oh, there's all these papers out here supporting diabetes, breathing. No one knows about this. I need to share. You've kind of feel this like you feel obligated in a sense to share when you learn these simple tools,
Yeah,
right?
true, true, true.
So I just wanted to share it. So I started the Breathing Diabetic as a way to share it. And now today, like I still share a lot about diabetes and I'm still heavily involved in diabetes, but I'm just obsessed with breathing in general. I study it from every perspective. I've done pranayama coaching now or teacher training. I basically nerd out on anything breathing at all, and try my hardest to both practice it myself every day and then share what I learned personally, what I learned from books, what I learned from papers with others. So that's a long breath answer to that simple question,
Yeah.
but that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate. So, how did breathwork transform your life personally?
Oh gosh, how long do we have? um, so mainly, let's see. So at first it was really the physiology. Like I just noticed improvements in things
Mm.
you would notice. Like my energy was way better. My sleep was way deeper. My ability to exercise was much stronger. My
Yeah.
ability to manage my diabetes was much stronger. So it started with that aspect of just like, I guess, tangible changes. But with time, it's really become more of like I guess you would call it spiritual, a lot of intangible, just my outlook on life. I laugh a lot more. I smile a lot more. I don't take myself seriously hardly ever anymore. And it's really just transformed me for the better. Now, I can't say it's all breathing. Like I read a lot. I practice a lot of like meditation type techniques, but, or I guess meditative techniques, but it all started with the seed of the breath. The breath like was planted, and then it got cultivated through lots of different practices where like I use the breath in everything. I practice loving kindness meditation. I use my breath as like the center point. If I practice basically any type of mindfulness or meditation, I'm using the breath as like a focal point, and expanding my awareness from that. So it's really become kind of like a center point and anchor, so to speak, for my entire life. But the main benefit has just been like feeling better and wanting to be a better person, like just trying to be a good person, so to speak.
Okay, thank you for that, Nick. So there's this saying that truth stood right under the nose. What is your take on that?
Oh yeah, I got a lot of takes on that. So yes, the nostrils, right, are arguably the most important part of the breath. Of course, the mouth is useful for lots of things. We're talking, it allows us to talk and breathe. Of course, you could breathe through your nose the whole time, but the mouth gives us some benefits. And during really vigorous exercise, the mouth is really helpful. But for the most part, breathing through our nose is really the gateway to all of the benefits. I like to say it's the 1% that allows the other 99 to occur, because it's really that link between everything, that all the benefits of breathing. So it actually like warms, humidifies, and cleans the incoming air. So it's a filtration system. It has all these little passages that these turbinates and things that catch particles, and then also are creating turbulence, which creates heat, which is helping to warm the air, so that when it gets to your lungs, it's conditioned. It's like an air conditioner, right? It's making sure that this outside air matches exactly what your lungs need by the time it reaches them. It harnesses a gas called nasal nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator. So meaning that when it gets into the lungs, it helps to redistribute the blood flow. And that's going to help maximize oxygen uptake and just improve gas exchange in the lungs. So it's doing all these wonderful things, but really what it comes down to, or a big side of it that gets overlooked, is that it has a direct connection to our brain. And so when you breathe through your nose, each breath you take, as the air is coming in, it synchronizes brain waves in different regions across the brain. So it's basically like smell is so important to survival that evolution, nature, God, whatever we want to call it, designed us so that when we breathe in, the brain synchronizes everything and says, okay, we got to pay attention. We need to see what's going on during this nasal inhale. Is there any information from the world? This is our source, right? This is how we get information from the world. Is there anything we need to pay attention to? And so when we combine that with deliberate control, like slow breathing, even fast breathing, what we're doing is we're able to influence the brain activity in a positive way. So if we sit and breathe very slowly, but we're using our nose, we're just kind of leveraging this built-in mechanism to pay attention to, for the brain to pay attention to the breath. And we're doing it for good. So we start to slow down the brain waves. We start to synchronize the brain waves. And this leads to things like less stress, less anxiety, less tension, more joy, better ability to focus. It almost sounds ridiculous, right? You start thinking, oh, like I see you smiling. It's like, what is going on here? It's something so
True,
simple, right?
true.
But it all starts here. And it's not really magical or anything. It feels like it, but it's really just basic physiology that makes sense. But we just, for some reason, again, we've been granted the ability to control our breath. And we're not sure why. Maybe it was for speech. Maybe it was for chanting and singing. Maybe it was for a lot of reasons. But for some reason, we can control our breath, and our breath can control basically everything in the body. And so when you start with the nose, it's really that gateway to everything else. So it's pretty fascinating.
Thank you very much, Nick. So that takes us to the next question. Tell us the difference between the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system.
Okay, in general, the parasympathetic is the relaxation response. So this is our healing response. It's often called the rest and digest system. This is when your heart rate slows down, your blood pressure lowers, and you feel calm, calm in your mind, calm in body. And this is really when your body starts to restore itself, when it heals itself. And then on the flip side is the sympathetic. This is when blood vessels constrict, your heart rate speeds up, you're ready for action, right? You're ready to move, and your body's doing everything it can to make sure you're prepared to move, to fight, to do whatever you need to do, because there's something, perhaps imminent danger coming, or something that requires a lot of physical exertion. So they're always both active, but it's kind of like we talk about dominance, like when you do something like slow breathing, you can make the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation side, more dominant. But when you go for a run or you do fast breathing exercises, they'll be more stimulating. So you'll make the sympathetic branch a little bit more active. And that can be beneficial for other reasons. But in general, it's more of like a stress response versus a relaxation response. And what I focus on a lot is that relaxation side, because most of us have enough stress in our lives. But there is a benefit to both when it comes to using the breath to activate them.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very insightful. So, can breathwork help people who feel disconnected or lost in life?
Yes, of course. And in fact, it does that for me every day, right? I wake up every day lost, and then I do my breathing practice, and here I am. I'm found. Uh, I'm connected. No, but I mean, really, the breath. And again, this is where, like, depending on where you are in your journey, it starts to sound a little woo-woo or a little out there, but it's really not. The more you learn, you realize, like, oh, breath is connection. Literally, I breathe air that comes into my lungs, gets absorbed into my bloodstream, right? My blood moves around, it picks up waste, I exhale, and I send out pieces of me to the world. And then other people breathe in that same exact air and they do the same thing. And so we're all sharing the air, no matter what we do, right, to separate ourselves,
Hmm?
all the different techniques we try, we are all breathing the same air. There's no way around that. We all share this resource, and it's literally the most important resource on the planet. It's freely available, and it's always there 24/7, right? And so when we start to think about the fact that we are all breathing the same air, that I'm breathing the same air as my dog, as every animal on the planet, that it's going inside of them and out of them and into me and out of me. It's really fascinating and can help you feel that deep sense of connection even if you're by yourself. And in fact, sometimes the most connected I feel all day is my morning breath practice, where I tap into some of this. At the end of it, I start to, like, I contemplate a little bit some of these things I'm talking about right now. And, like, when your nervous system is calm, when you're not drinking coffee, right? You can, it absorbs easier, right? And so you
Yeah.
really feel it in that moment. And then of course you get up and the normal day comes along and you have to deal with it, but you can feel that deep sense of connection all by yourself, knowing you're, like, embedded in the atmosphere. A teacher I love, Eddie Stern, he says, the atmosphere breathes you. And that's a really good way of looking at it. Like, you're being breathed all day by the atmosphere as well. And so it can give you this deep sense of connection, not just with other people, but with the world at large.
Yeah, thank you. That was so insightful and wonderful. So, Nick, when it comes to habits, is there a way we can use breath to work on our habits?
Yes. The breath is the number one habit we can work on. We breathe 20,000 plus times a day, right? And so if we can learn to breathe nasally, slower, a little bit more quieter, maybe a slightly deeper, not exaggerate it, but just a little bit more deeper, so we're activating the diaphragm, then we're building the best habit of all, which is proper breathing, which is going to make us feel better all throughout the rest of the day, give us
Mm-hmm.
more energy, give us more focus. And this is going to allow us to do all of the things we learned from James Clear or BJ Fogg and Tiny Habits and Atomic Habits, and actually apply those things, right? And
Yeah.
so really, when it comes to building habits, the habit of breath can be the cornerstone, so to speak, or the foundation of building other habits and giving you the energy you need. That's one thing I should say. Like, when I started all of this, I would have never believed I could read all the books I read or the papers I read and all, like, because physiologically I didn't have the energy or the mental power to do it. I loved studying and things, but like, it like flipped a whole new level of capabilities just because I had a little bit more energy to do the things I love. And so it might not be like the most transformative practice, but just having more energy each day, sleeping a little bit better, a little bit more energy with each breath, right? It gives you a little bit more drive. And so like if you want a habit, you want to build a habit, it can help you with a little bit of that willpower, a little bit of that discipline, but a little bit of that just kind of acceptance and going with the flow as well, so that you can build it in a way that works for you, because you have the mental resources to do so.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I've come to realize that kids usually breathe with their stomach, abdomen. But growing up to the adults, there tend to be this shift from the belly breathing to the chest breathing. So what's the difference between the belly breathing and the chest breathing?
The chest breathing is much less efficient. So it's just not how we're designed to breathe. So the diaphragm is designed to flatten out. So it's kind of like a dome, and it's designed to flatten out. And that's supposed to basically protrude our stomachs a little bit and bring air deeply into the lungs. And near the bottom portion of the lungs is where there's the most blood flow, the most surface area. And this is going to maximize oxygen uptake. And so when we breathe through the upper chest more, we're not getting that benefit. We're getting most of the air is going toward the upper portions of the lungs due to gravity, right? We're sitting up straight. So due to gravity, a lot of the blood flow will be near the base of the lungs. And so when you breathe in to the upper portions of the lungs, you're not going to get as much blood flow, which means less efficient gas exchange. And you're going to be having to activate your shoulder muscles and some of these weird, more auxiliary muscles for breathing. And basically what you're doing is you're using more energy to get less oxygen, right? To get less air. And so it's just less efficient. Of course, you'll live, right? Well, you'll be alive. We see people do it all the time. But it's just less efficient when you add that up, let's say 20,000 times a day over a year, a couple of years, a lifetime, right? It can add up to some eventually detrimental health impacts and just a physical exhaustion. Like you just feel more tired because you're wasting all this energy, when you can learn the simple habit of breathing a little deeper into your belly through your nose, maximizing oxygen uptake, making the breath way more efficient, and then you have more energy because you're working less hard to get more. So it's just, it makes sense.
Thank you so much, Nick. And one last question. What would you advise someone who is totally new to the breath work, to meditation, to mindfulness?
Let's see. There's a lot. That's a loaded question. There's a lot there. So I would say, first off, start with what interests you. The thing you are excited about and that you will enjoy will be the one you'll stick with. So start with, even if it's Wim Hof, like I'm not a big fan of that stuff anymore, but if that's what gets you excited, like start there and let that be your gateway. Focus 100% on safety, right? Because as we've been talking, like the breath is this unbelievable gateway to the nervous system, to your brain. You don't want to mess that up. So you don't want to like go out and do something silly because you saw it on Instagram, right? Or whatever, which is, we all make mistakes and that's okay. But just, keep that in mind. Like try to be safe about it. The practices I personally tell people, like I say, slow breathing, which means breathing at a rate less than 10 breaths a minute. So usually I advise a 4-second inhale with a 6-second exhale as a starting point. start with maybe a couple minutes, then do 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then maybe 20 minutes if you're up for it. But really, if you can even do 5 minutes of that a day, you're going to see benefits in your stress reduction. So that's a good starting point. And then just mindfulness of breathing. Everything starts with awareness. So it's cliche and all that, but really being aware of your breath, noticing how it changes during the day, using it as a tool to gauge your emotional system. Oh, wow. Like I notice all the time, like, wow, I feel a little like breathless. It's like, oh, I just took my B vitamins and it's getting me a little jazzed up or whatever. Or like, oh, my blood sugar is getting low. That's a big one. Like I'll notice my breath is a little faster and I'll say, oh, I think I'm getting low. And I
Mm,
feel like this kind of tension, and it's my sympathetic nervous system telling me your blood sugar is getting low. And because I'm a breath nerd, that's how I notice it first. Now, I'm sure
mm,
there's a bunch of other signs simultaneously, but that's like the first one I notice. So start with slow breathing, mindfulness of breathing. Um, and this is something that gets overlooked a lot, and I try so hard to encourage is just joy. Like if you
mm,
want to like sit cross leg and burn candles, just do it. Like whatever brings you joy, it's going to make you happy doing it, do it. If you're really into science, right, and you want to like do the perfect breath and find the perfect numbers and check your heart rate variability and all that, that's great too. Do it if that's what brings you joy. So like really focus on like being happy when you do it, because if you're just doing it because someone told you this is the way, um you're going to end up not sticking with it. But if you do it because it's based on principles, good principles, but then you adapted it for your life and you made it fun, or you added some music you enjoy, or some relaxing tones in the background, or some candlelight, or whatever it is for you, do that so that you'll really enjoy it, so that you'll stick with it. And most of all, don't take yourself too seriously. Laugh a lot. Laugh, laugh, laugh. Make sure you're having fun, because it's
yeah.
that's the whole point, right? We're not here to be serious.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, just a reminder, inhale for 4 times, 4 seconds,
4 seconds, yeah.
and exhale for 6 seconds.
Yep. In
Love
through the nose, out through the nose, or in through the nose, out through the mouth.
all through the nose.
Both. Either one. Either in through the nose, out through the nose, or in
Mm,
through the nose, out through the
out
mouth,
through the mouth.
through pursed lips.
Mm. First lips.
Yeah, pursed lips, like you're blowing on a hot coffee.
Okay, like.
Yeah, or hot soup. Yeah. That's actually really, really good way to start, because the
Mm,
exhale can be challenging to lengthen. If you're
mm.
new, you might feel breathless. So by
True,
pursing the lips,
true,
it
true.
gives you a lot more control. So it
Mm,
makes it easier.
mm. All right, this is lovely, informative. Thank you, thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate this.
Yes, yeah. Well, thank you. It's
Yeah,
so much fun to chat and laugh and have a good time
yeah.
talking about the breath here.
And I've come to realize that the whole Hollywood actors, actresses, and most of this musician, they are into this meditation and breathwork practice, and they attribute it to their success.
Right. Well, imagine
Yeah.
if you're on TV and people are taking pictures at you, you would go insane. You need some sort of practice to keep your brain. Oh, how could you not? Oh, I couldn't imagine
Yeah.
not being able to walk out of my house.
Mm.
So I definitely, that makes sense.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick. This
Thank
was
you.
wonderful. We'll spend more time talking about this in the future.
That sounds good. It's great to
Yeah.
talk.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. This was wonderful.